So I really wanted to talk about this concept of the wall and specifically the male wall. Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar of the concept of the wall, but let's take a look at this chart for example. So on the left, this is a woman's age versus the age of men who look best to her. And on the right, we have a man's age versus the age of women who look best to him. Now, important to note about this data is coming from specifically physical attractiveness and things like photos, appearance, things of that nature. Now, obviously, you don't see an abundance of like 46-year-old men running around 20-year-olds or 47-year-old men running around 20-year-olds, right? Now, the reason for that is what would a 46 or 47-year-old man who has all that time in his career, all that time on this earth, have to talk about with a 20-year-old girl? I mean, they don't have a ton in common. If if even something like adding half a dozen years of life to an age 20-year-old woman, I mean, that would give her so much more professional experience and so much more just experience living in the adult world where she would have so much like that would be a ton more realistic to than getting with someone who's in the late 40s at the age 20. Um, this idea of guys only wanting women who are literally in college, like literal college age women, is so much of only a half truth. I think so many guys would rather prefer a girl who, to some degree, right, is on their intellectual kind of level and someone they can bounce ideas off of, chit chat with, go on little dates with, and you know, both parties are entertained to some degree. So yeah, that's a huge debunker I just want to get out right away. Now, this is what I think is really interesting, and this is something that I don't know if enough men have really processed, is that ideally women would prefer to be with men in most situations that are a little bit older than them. However, once they get to around age 30, women start to prioritize looking at men who are pretty much around the same age as them, if not slightly younger. So, very interesting. I will double back on why that is. But let's go ahead and shift our focus back to kind of the male wall. So, in the manure sphere, right? In the manure sphere, um, they have these sayings that it's like men peak later, right? And in First Man, this is actually I kind of do like this channel, even though there's a ton I disagree with. Um, he talks about men essentially kind of like, stay on the grind, just keep working on yourself because really your life doesn't start until later. He actually has a saying where it's a woman's life starts at age 18, a man's life starts at age 30. And his argument for it is kind of interesting. It's like, at age 18, the access a woman has is just kind of the exploring the world, going on vacations, just seeing what's out there. It is pretty high. It is pretty high because due to high social value, high desirability to the opposite sex, as noted in this chart. When you're around the age, very close to age 20, you're going to physically look the best you ever looked to the opposite sex. So you're going to have a lot of leverage in social situations. Now, for men, when you do encroach around the age 30, that is when things happen like you're getting closer to your peak earning years. You're very competent in social situations. You're very experienced in social situations. You've gone on probably a handful of dates at this point. You've had a handful of heartbreaks or breakups that you've learned and grown from. You're probably in some of the best shape of your life because maybe you've learned techniques to work out that have been great for you. You've figured out diet plans that have worked for you. Actually, a male's muscle mass peak doesn't really happen until they're early to mid 30s, right? That's just naturally the age where metabolism starts to slow down. They're not easily burning off so much body weight, and they can actually accumulate some mass and some size. And that's why you see stuff like Michael B. Jordan. This is why, he has like that kind of like that those workouts and stuff he did for Creed 3, that's possible because he's not so much of a young man anymore. He's more of a man's man, and he can actually build the muscle and do things like that required for a role. So something to think about, that there is a half truth to what these people in the manure sphere are saying. But I really want to just emphasize that there's a lot of things that just aren't right about that. So, um, again, here, Psychac's Dr. Ryan's hairband, he mentions this article here where this is pulled from dating app data. And obviously, these are, big city environments here, as you can see from this chart. And the desirability rank is really interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff here about ethnicity or education I could harp on, but I'm not going to focus on that as much in this video, even though this is massively important for just understanding the realities of modern dating markets. But let's just focus on age here, right? Because this is kind of, I want to focus on what age is, a male wall or female wall or anything of that nature. More specifically, with this video, I want to be focused on the male wall. So, not too surprising what we see with women, where it's kind of like as they do rise in age, the desirability to the opposite sex isn't quite as high as it used to be. It's not quite as demanding. What's really interesting though for men is it starts at the lowest it's ever been once they do reach an adult age, and it begins to rise from there. Now, the thing is, parlaying back to this data, I think a lot of men, including people like First Men, get confused as to the realities with this. So, um, for example, at age 50, or somewhere around here, when men do reach their peak desirability age, it's more so to women around age 40, right? So, you're not, this idea of men just kind of like, who's done the work, obviously. Great, great assets. He's in good shape. He's well cultured. Maybe he speaks a couple different languages. Um, he's still really getting women that are, he's not getting the quote unquote most desirable women with the highest social value who are college age. He'd be most attractive to genuinely women who are about a decade younger than him, around age 40, or maybe in their late 30s around age 39, or honestly in their mid 40s around age 45. Yes, their social value is higher at these ages, but it's higher relative with women who have aged with them. So I guess my question is, what do you value most as a man? Do you value your general uh, your general social desirability going up? Is that what you value the most? Is that what you see the greatest? Is that what you see as your peak? Or would you consider your peak more of the ability to garner the energy, attention, and dates with the quote unquote most most socially, the women who have the most social leverage, the young women? Um, I'm not saying there's a right answer here at all. I'm just asking the question because this is something I think in the manure sphere is missed quite often. Now, it's, I think with most things, the truth, it's somewhere in the middle. And with men, I think what's really important that they acknowledge is that the peak might not be what they think it was. And it is possible that some men have kind of already had their peak and they haven't realized it yet. Now, why I think that is because I think really the sweet spot for men is maybe somewhere around age 25 up till their early 30s. I think these men and these age ranges here, they're going to have the best luck with women who are in their 20s and are at the peak of social desirability, social leverage, to, the male sex. So, something I think is really interesting is this video from Jack and Stack. Now, they actually do talk about another common topic in the manure sphere is geriatric pregnancy, which, once women start approaching the late 30s or trying to get pregnant into their 40s, it's often considered what in medical terminology is called a geriatric pregnancy, where um, egg counts are just lowered by so much in that stage of the pregnancy where it's not only harder to get pregnant, but it's also harder to have a healthy conception of offspring. It's a much higher likelihood of things like disorders or complications with the birth. Now, men do have their issues with AIDS as well. Sperm motility, that is a issue. It's just because a man could get someone, a young woman, pregnant at age 70. Um, it's been done before. That doesn't mean it is going to happen or that it's statistically a normal outcome. As you can see, actually sperm donors they'd have a limit. 40 is the maximum age to apply to be a sperm donor. So it's not like men don't have their issues that come with age. And this is not only to mention other things like balding or any other issues with age or wrinkles. You know, Obviously these are things guys can take care of with newfound things such as finasteride, hair transplants, or with wrinkling, good skincare. But it is something to think about for sure. Now, the last thing I want to talk on is this video from Martin Goldberg where he talks about the male wall, and I think this is kind of where I tend to agree. This picture is really interesting here. Uh, Now, when you become older, especially as a man here in the in like a Western first world country, you kind of understand, and you've been on more and more dates. You build this wisdom of your value is directly tied to your ability to like solve problems in a woman's life. And some men are kind of okay with accepting that at face value for what it is, and some men kind of would prefer the idea of giving and receiving love unconditionally. And that's just not a reality for men here in first world Western countries, that they can give and receive love unconditionally. Most relationships will be conditional to some extent. Uh, I know next to nothing about this relationship other than the age of the woman and the age of the man, where they are from. And I can tell you this is very, very much likely a conditional relationship, uh, not so much a puppy love slash genuine desire. There probably is some genuine desire there, both parties, especially I'm sure he has very strong, genuine desire for her. I'm more skeptical of her genuine desire for him in terms of sexual compatibility, as we can tell, based on what I mentioned in the chart. However, I'm not doubting it's there. I'm just saying that you want to ask yourself how much of that is present in my current life, my current relationship outlook, because that's going to be important, especially as a man. You want to ask yourself these questions of how much of my relationship is conditional, how much of it is I'm giving and receiving the unconditional love I technically do want in my hardest of hearts. Now, not all men will view, relationships this way and view love as like, hey, I want to give and receive this unconditionally. Everyone has their own viewpoints on that, but I think a lot of men are, they have that to some degree, where they do kind of want that, they desire that, they want to see that in their society, in their world, in their life, um, and in their own individual human experience. Another thing that Martin Goldberg talked about that was really interesting is as men age, right? They're going up this ladder here. You go past age 25, you go past age 30, even go past age 35. You go on more dates, you have more experience with women. You get a little bit emotionally blunted by things. Uh, some of your past experiences, you kind of see them relive themselves. You see attitudes and platitudes in dating and women you're going on dates with. You see them before they happen, as they're happening. You see certain way texts are exchanged, words are exchanged. It's almost like you've been there before, and you build an emotional apathy to it. Now, in relationships, emotional apathy can be, that can really hold you back. It can hold you back from going to a deeper level. So it's something that the manure sphere really needs to think about. When are men actually peaking? What is the male wall? There's this belief in the manure sphere that men don't really have a wall. If they do have a wall, it's like past age 50 with physical limitations. Yes and no. They absolutely do have a wall. There are ages where we know men and women tend to be more interested in each other and not, this idea of a woman being age 23 in college and wanting to mess with a dude who's age 35. I mean, that's very much possible and very much does happen today, but it is very much the rare instance.